Hey, I'm Steph. I'm a motivator, creator, small business owner, and educator. I'm a lover of all things health, spirituality, inspiration, and business. These are just a few words to describe me, along with passion, grit, and resiliency. Regardless of what I'm up to, I am soul-driven to create a purpose-filled life and find the advantages in adversity, all while keeping a smile on my face.
Soul Driven with Steph is a podcast that will fill up your cup and leave you feeling empowered, inspired, and on fire as you listen to interviews and stories of other soul-driven and strong women that have overcome against all odds. This podcast was a calling on Steph's soul to serve, connect, and share stories of struggles and successes, all to create a community so that you know you're never alone. Grab a cup of coffee, get ready to learn, laugh, and leave with wisdom and strategies to connect to your soul and get back in the driver's seat of your life today. Here's Steph.
Welcome back to another episode of Soul Driven with Steph. I am thrilled about our guest here today joining us. She is a dear friend, fellow entrepreneur, small business sister, and please welcome to the podcast, Sabrea.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Steph. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. I think this conversation is a long time coming. We have a lot of just, similar audience and similar just passions for helping empower people in their health and wellness journey, wherever they're at, supporting other women, small business owners, just all of the things. So let's get into your origin story. I always love to know what led you to where you are now. And I know bits and pieces of your story, but I would love our listeners to hear, what is your origin story and how did you get into entrepreneurship?
Sure. So I kind of come from an unconventional upbringing a little bit. I grew up in Indiana. My parents divorced when I was like a teenager, and my mom wanted to move us to Florida because she always wanted to live by the ocean. And of course, I was like 15, 16 at the time, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. I like sunshine and ocean. But that meant I was going to have to go to school at a new place. And the idea of that just absolutely terrified me. I'm not super outgoing, despite what a lot of people think. And so I opted at the age of 16 to drop out of high school. And my mom was not thrilled, but she was also very much the kind of mom that was like, you need to figure you out, So I promised her that I would immediately get my GED when I turned 18 and I was allowed. And so she said, okay. So that began my working full-time adult life at the age of 16. And I worked my butt off. My parents raised me that way, and neither of them were entrepreneurs. So I don't necessarily know where the bug came from, other than I started a job when I was 20, and it was a very strange job compared to what most people think when they think of a job. I worked for a company that toured around the United States, really the globe, but I toured around the United States doing live family entertainment shows. And I traveled for 9 months out of the year. I lived out of 2 suitcases. I stayed in hotels. I was in a different hotel every week. And it was all centered around sales, retail sales. And I very quickly fell in love with the lifestyle because I love traveling. And you immediately get this large group of people that become your family. And I was out on my own, and it was just like, woohoo, And the unique thing about that job was that despite the fact that I was a corporate employee, because I joined the management team, we had a lot of autonomy, and we were kind of left on our own. Each tour was its own unit. And so you didn't have somebody like breathing down your neck all the time. You were held accountable for goals and, hitting targets and stuff like that. But you were the one responsible for making the decisions to meet those goals. And that meant, finding the right people, putting the right people in the right positions, coaching people, mentoring people, training people, all of those things. And I spent years doing that. And at some point I was like, I could probably do all of these things, but the money goes to me, like for myself. And that once I had that thought, it just kind of never went away. But I'm also very much into safety and needing steady paycheck and all that kind of stuff, especially at that time in my life. And so I never took the opportunity. And I also was like, well, I don't really know what I want to do. So it's just back here. It's just back here kind of, growing, and we'll see what that turns into. So yeah, I continued working, busting my butt. My husband was traveling too. We had kids, all the things. And the life was becoming I wasn't traveling full time at that point, but the lifestyle was very hard with family life. And just the demands. It was a very demanding, stressful job life. So COVID hit. And when COVID hit, I lost my job because everything in the live entertainment itself, the whole industry just shut down. And, I was a corporate employee in charge of like training and mentoring and stuff like that. So of course I was like the first to go. And while it was devastating and I was scared to death, it was the biggest blessing in disguise that I could have ever asked for. And so, yeah, after my husband and I had talked about it, he was like, I, of course, went out back into the job market and I was like, oh, I'm going to get a job doing this, that, and the other, whatever. And I panicked when I actually went into the, you go into those orientation meetings and they're like, hey, welcome to this company and you want to be here and you're going to love it here. And this is why, because we're great, like all those things. And I was sitting in the back of the room at this orientation and I was like, oh my goodness, I was that person. I was that person at the front of the room that had to give that speech to all those people. And I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to sit in a room on a headset? I just couldn't, I just couldn't. I had worked so hard to get where I was in my career at that point, and the idea of just starting back at square one for something that wasn't for me was just a no. And thank goodness my husband was on board with that. So yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I love hearing the origin story, and I had no idea that you decided at 16 you're just going to be done with school and get into the workforce. And I mean, I find that fascinating and inspirational, because I think to be able to make those decisions at that age and then still pursue whatever path you want is it shows that there's not a linear path to finding your way or finding success. And we all have those parts of our journey where we're like, yeah, and then I decided to opt out of the path to whatever traditional lifestyle and do something different and something that I felt called to do. And it obviously spiraled into taking you down this path into this corporate job. And you were there for a very long time. And I'm assuming that if you didn't lose the job that you had during COVID, you probably maybe would have stayed even longer. And maybe eventually you would have been like, I'm done and I'm going to pursue my business now. But I do think that COVID really accelerated a lot of the awareness that we had. And sometimes it was just through we're forced to go find a different way to make a living or have a career. Or sometimes it was, I actually decided, yeah, I'm not happy doing this. So I think everyone can relate to those points in the path where you decided to go do something totally different. It led you down a path, and then you're on that path and either get forced onto a new path, or you have this kind of aha awakening moment that I'm actually not satisfied in what I'm doing. And like you said, I can't imagine the lifestyle of being a mom and traveling all the time and just trying to figure it all out. So once you then lost that position and were kind of in the transition of deciding, okay, do I go start over somewhere else? Clearly you had a change of heart to try something for yourself. So tell us what led you into the inspiration behind your business, Simple in Nature.
So I had decided, since I never went to college, I did get my GED as soon as I was able when I turned 18, but I was like, college is not for me. I wasn't interested. I was a good student. I just was not interested. I just was all about like moving forward and getting, like, I was very driven to get to the top. I hate to say that, like, because it sounds so cliche, but that was really what drove me. I was like, I don't ever want to be poor. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. And I had a lot of shame around the fact that I had quit school at a young age. It was very like, ooh, what are you doing? A lot of people thought I was insane, and I maybe a little, but so I went like in the total opposite direction. It was like, I'm absolutely going to work harder than anyone. It doesn't matter if I'm not as smart as everybody else or whatever I thought in my head. I'm going to outwork anyone, and I am going to get what it is that I want. And, and I did that. I became the first female ever in the history of the company to become a manager, which was like a really big deal back then. This was 20 some odd years ago. So, it was rare back then, especially in that old boys club.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
So I really I always have been very driven, self-driven. But anyway, I had reached a point in my career where I was like, okay, I'm kind of like, I was at a senior level position, and a next step for me would have been like a very senior level position. And I didn't have an education to back it up. And my boss, thankfully, she was a wonderful woman, very supportive, great mentor. And she was like, it's not required, but it just shows that you can go through a process. And, that's what people are looking at. That piece of paper shows that you have the ability to go through a process and do what you're told, essentially. And I was like, okay. So I decided to go to school. And so I went to Western here in La Crosse, and they happened to have a sales management program that they were piloting that year. It was a total worked out great. It was a grant funded program. I had to pay almost nothing to get a 2-year degree. And, it was hard because, again, I had a young child. I ended up getting pregnant with my second kid. I was working full time. I was traveling, and I had a full caseload of school. And it was crazy. But what I realized out of that was that, hey, you know what? I'm not an idiot. I really know what I'm doing. I have worked my way up to this, and I can do this. And school was kind of a breeze. Well, during school, other than the time commitment, of course, but during school, I, of course, had a business class, an amazing teacher that I'm still in touch with today. I adore her. And it was just like intro to business or whatever. And we had to create a business. And as part of that class and creating that business is where I came up with Simple in Nature. That was the original name. That's where it came from. And it started with 3 core products, and it was body oils, sugar scrubs, and soaking salts. And, when you're having to go through that whole assignment process, it's like, okay, what makes you unique, and how do you stand out, and why would people buy your product, and, all those things. And so I really had to kind of go through all of that. And during that process is when I decided, you know what, I want to be organic, because the other major portion of my life for all those 20 years was really about health and wellness. It was like my side hobby, it wasn't anything that I did, professionally or anything like that. It was just something I was very interested in. I educated myself heavily in. I read a book, and it kind of just flipped a switch in my mind about how food affects our bodies, and how it affects the environment, and all these kinds of things. And that kind of put me on a path of health and wellness. And so again, Simple in Nature, I knew was going to be something that was simple in nature. I wanted limited ingredients. I wanted organic ingredients. I wanted no preservatives, no artificial fragrances. No, like I knew what I wanted. And the reason that I chose skincare was because rewind, whatever, 25 years ago, I don't know how long, I had lived in New York City for a year. That's a whole other story for a different time. But I lived in New York City for a year, and I was a front end manager at a health food store, a very popular health food store there. And I got exposed to all of the amazing products that were in the natural, wellness industry. And this is so long ago. I mean, there's so many things on the market now. It's like crazy. But back then there was very limited things available to people. So I just learned a lot about, what was out there and how it affected our bodies and how it affected our skin and all those kinds of things. So, I was like, well, I guess I could do this. So I strictly did it at that time for an assignment, because you had to go through the whole process of making the product and all that. And I was like, okay, this is my jam. I know how to do retail. I know how to, merchandise, that was like our area of expertise in my career. So yeah, that was in 2015. I think it was 2015 when I had that assignment. And I was like, this is really fun. I really like this. And maybe I should do this. And so I started I was like, I'll open up an Etsy shop. How hard can that be? So I opened up an Etsy shop. I did have some sales on that, but then I very soon after found out I was pregnant with my second child. And I was like, I probably can't swing this. So I'm just going to put this on the back burner. But of course, over the next 5 years, it was still in my mind, I had that name. It was just part of who I was. I knew, like, if anybody ever asked me, who are you? I'm like, I'm just kind of like simple in nature, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm just pretty basic. It's who I am. And so anyway, yeah, when I got laid off and I said, I really kind of want to give my business a go. And that was at the time, in 2020, like markets were happening and, small business was becoming more of a thing that people were talking about. People were turning away from big box stores. They were, supporting local and stuff like that. So I was like, I have this opportunity and I'd really like to pursue it. And my husband was like, okay, go for it, and so I just dove in crazy and did everything in my power to immediately try to get up to 100%, because I don't know any other way of functioning than at 100%. My career shaped me into always having to strive for number one, and very much defined who I was. And so losing that and then creating something new that was all mine, it's been a heck of a transition, learning who I am and that I don't have to be defined by what I do and, the approval of others and all of those things. So yeah, this business has been by far the greatest growth and life lessons for me in such a short period of time.
Totally. Well, I love this story, and I just think we're never really starting over from nothing. We are always adding experiences. We're starting from experience. So you had, these almost 20 years of experience in the corporate job, merchandising, learning the business side of things, learning how to deal with people, like all the skills that you needed to then translate into your own business when the timing aligned perfectly. And I love that you shared that you actually came up with the idea and started it with your Etsy shop 5 years prior to really going full force into it, because so often we do feel like we need to just quit everything and go all in. And sometimes that works and sometimes it just doesn't for the season of life that we're in. You had another child on the way, you're still working full time, you're in school, like all of those things. So I really appreciate the fact that you were okay with saying, I'm going to put this on the back burner, but you didn't leave it there and you didn't forget about it. You took a better opportunity of timing, knowing that hopefully eventually it would come. And it has. So it's been almost 4 years, right? Or 4 years ish since you officially kind of launched it as your business full time. Take us a little bit behind the scenes of the business. You create your own products by hand, right? And you're coming up with new products and new scents. And I know that takes a lot of work and creativity. So, what has been your process for coming up with new products? Like, how often do you do that? How do you come up with all these amazing scents? And what kind of keeps you inspired to constantly be creating new things?
So, like I mentioned, I started with the three core products, and I had 4 scents that I had made at the time. And when I made those scents, they were just very basic. Like I said, it was for an assignment, but it was very basic. And I was like, that's not going to make me stand out. Just making a body oil that has lavender essential oil, you can get that not anywhere, but you know what I mean? It wasn't unique. And I was like, what is different? What could make me unique? And I was like, I'm going to make my own unique scents. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be something that you can't find anywhere else. I mean, maybe somebody will duplicate it somewhere, but it's mine. So I started out with the 4 scents, and then I was like, I should probably do an unscented one because a lot of people have sensitive skin. So that's kind of what I started out with. And then slowly but surely, when you get loyal, customers start buying, they love this scent, they love that, all these kinds of things. You get feedback, and then you hear, oh, are you going to come out with something new? And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I probably, people like new, fresh, different. We're all that 3 seconds attention span now. And, there's some people who are loyal to 1 or 2 scents like yourself, or there's others who just constantly want something different. Yeah. And so that's when I decided I was going to start doing seasonal scents. And so I came out with my first one. And I was like, there's also probably people out there who don't necessarily want to jump into buying a full size product if they don't know they're going to love it. And so at that same time is when I created my mini bundle. And it's essentially just smaller versions of all of the products that I have. So that has allowed me the opportunity to kind of expand to other people who might not have otherwise wanted to jump in, straight out of the gate. So this gives them exposure to products, exposure to different scents, and they can kind of try things out. And it's also a great giftable item too. So kind of started with that. And then I was like, okay, well, this went really well. People liked seasonal scents. So maybe I could manage doing this, once every quarter. Every time we have a new season, I'll come out with a new scent, and it'll just be a limited time. And once it's gone, it's gone. Well, when I started doing that, people were like, I really love that scent. When are you going to bring it back? And I was like, okay, this is tough. You don't want to tell people no, you don't want, it's tough. So at that point I decided I'm going to make a scent, and I'll keep it around for a year, and that gives somebody a full year. And then I can kind of bring them back in limited edition, limited release type situations. So I have like my core scents, and then I have my seasonal scents. And then just like with anything else, your customers kind of tell you what they want. That they're, hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Have you ever thought about doing that? I had somebody approach me. That's how my lip scrubs came about. I had a business approach me and say, hey, I'd really like to have a lip scrub to be able to do on my clients when they're getting a facial. Is that something you would consider doing? And I was like, well, I don't do it yet, but sure, why not? I'll give it a go. And so I just started experimenting. And I created one, and, I gave it to her, and she goes, no, this just really isn't the right consistency. So I went back to the drawing board, and I tried some other things, and, you have multiple iterations of something, and then eventually you hit the nail on the head, and you're like, okay, this is it. So you come out with the first one, it's this first particular flavor, and then, hey, I'll just duplicate it with different flavors. And my mindset around items that I'm going to make is always kind of like, what can I make within the structure that I've already created. Like, I don't want to have to buy 100 different ingredients. Ingredients are very expensive, especially when you're, going to be an organic business. It's far more expensive to do organic. And so, I was like, what could I make? If I already make sugar scrubs, what could I take with those ingredients and kind of reimagine it into something else? Or what can I take with the different oils that I have and reimagine it into something else? So that's kind of how like perfume roll-ons came about. It's like, oh, okay, I can use those same oils, but just in different ratios. And, now I have a perfume roll-on and everything has a matching one, and just stuff like that, kind of slow growth into new products. And it's a daunting process. I, of course, question myself all the time, like, am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? But anytime I've come out with something new, it's gone well, and so I just keep rolling.
Yes, I love it. Thank you for sharing just kind of and some of that is just helpful to hear, like, not reinventing the wheel every time. Take something that you already have. Not only are you going to save money, but like save yourself some brain work of, working within the scope that you are comfortable. I mean, it's great to get outside your comfort zone and try new products, but it requires a lot more feedback and a lot more, taking it back to the drawing board, like you were saying. Yeah. So I think it's really smart to have those core products that people already love, and you're just giving them variations of it. Yes, my favorite scent is the Harmony, and it kind of has that like earthy patchouli. I'm trying to think what else is in that one. I don't even know. I just love it.
It's Palo Santo. This is why you love it, because it's Palo Santo and patchouli, and then you get bergamot too. So it's like a little hippie-ish, which is totally your vibe.
Yes, it is definitely a hippie scent, but I love it. Oh, it's so good. So let's talk a bit about the health piece, because as you mentioned, your products are all organic. You have had your own health journey that you've been on for years. That's been a core piece of who you are. Yeah. So I know that being healthy and not just physical, like your products are great for applying physically, right? But also like being healthy in mind and spirit. And you just recently did a summer challenge that was focusing on all different aspects of health and wellness. And I mean, I strongly feel the same way. And I know a lot of our listeners really tried to implement those practices as well. So how do you make that a priority for yourself? Because you are busy and you have 2 kids and you're running a small business. And I'm sure even as you were working on the road, that was still something that you really tried to hone in on. So tell us, what does that look like for you to be healthy and mind, body, and soul in your own life?
So when I was traveling full time, it was very challenging to live any kind of a healthy lifestyle. I did the best I could, within the kind of constraints that we had. But I would, make sure that I could get exercise in at least a few times a week. And if we were having a company meal or whatever, like, okay, I'm going to go to the salad bar first. I'm not going to immediately go for the pasta or whatever. But it was challenging then. A lot of my meals were pizza. A lot of my meals were fast food, junk. I mean, just junk, because that was all there was back then. So I just kind of did the best I could. And then, stress was bad. It was bad. And it probably still is for all of the people that work there, sadly. It's just the culture that was there. And when I got out of that and I was like, hey, I don't have to have that. I don't have to live in that constant, fight, flight, freeze mode. It allowed me, when I was able to really kind of just be and relax, I realized I was a better person. I could be kinder to my family. I was more open to other people. It was just, I don't know, it was a whole different shift. And so since I had more time on my hands, if you will, I was like, I need to create a life for me that is I'm very into habit and doing things in routine. That's just how I thrive. And so I started, focusing on that. I had a really bad back injury, and it kind of messed up my life for years. This was like towards the end of my career when I was having to sit all the time at my desk and all that kind of stuff. And it just really did a number on my body. And so when I was able to actually start, I had back surgery. And when I was able to start moving again regularly, I was like, I'm never going back to that. Never. I want to be able to be old and gray and able-bodied for my children and my grandchildren, and that at that time is where it shifted for me finally. And I was like in my 40s at the time, early 40s. It finally shifted from health and wellness is about vanity versus longevity. I hate to say that I was in that vanity state for a long time, but I was. And that was just years of societal hammering of you need to be a certain way and look a certain way and do, all that kind of stuff. And I finally said, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing this because I want to be healthy, period. And so that's when I was like, I can just start making these choices. Bottom line, that's what our life boils down to. Am I choosing what is best for me first and foremost so that I can be the best version of myself every day for my kids, for my husband, for my friends, my community, all of that. And that's just kind of how I have chosen to live my life these last 4 years. Some days aren't great, sometimes I make bad choices, but for the most part, I'm always aiming to do what I can to be healthy for that reason. And I'm all about talking to anybody and everybody about that if that's what they want for themselves. Like, you want to get healthy, you want to talk about different things that might make you feel better, hit me up. Like, I'm here for it, because I've just seen the difference that it makes in my mental health and the stress load to be able to have some kind of normal self-care routine, healthy food, hydration. It's so basic, sleep, exercise, quiet time, like all of those things. It really is so basic, but it's so powerful and makes such a huge difference in so many different areas. And the fact that I do skincare, people, if you look at my social media, of course, I'm talking a lot about health and wellness, and people are probably like, I thought this was a skincare company. And it is, but that's just a piece of it. If you want to be healthy on the outside, you have to take care of what's going on the inside. There is no magic product that is going to give you what you want. There just isn't, because if there was, then all those people who created that would be millionaires. And they aren't. So, it just does not exist. We have to do the work. We have to take care of the inside. People look at me and they're like, you're how old? And I'm like, I'm 46, and they think that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not crazy, because for the past 25 years, I have been conscious about what I am putting into my body and what I am putting on my body and what I am using in my environment, because toxins load up. It all accumulates, our bodies are only so efficient. And so, yeah, skincare for me was just a natural progression of what I would do as a business, because it's treating the external largest organ of your body, so that you have the ability to take care of something in such a basic and simple way to improve and optimize your health. People think of skincare as a luxury, and I'm like, absolutely not. It is a necessity. It is a necessity, and it does not need to be complicated, and it does not need to be 18 steps.
Yes, totally. I was just about to say that it is your largest organ. And what I love about it's almost a metaphor is like, the external physical, putting it on your skin, but it's what happens internally when you take care of that external, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't realize how much the environment around us, the toxicity around us constantly affects us inside. And whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of the things, we have no idea until we actually take it into our hands and say, I'm going to do something about this. I'm going to change my skincare routine. I'm going to start using clean products. I'm going to use organic skincare. I'm going to clean my house, with less toxins, and I'm going to spend time around, people that are doing similar things. So it really is a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I think it only makes sense that you have the products for the skincare, but you're also taking people that layers deeper into what it actually means to have holistic mind, body, soul wellness. And I love that you show all those parts of you, because I think, again, that's what makes us human and whole and relatable. And, it's a journey. Like you said, none of us are perfect, but it's really just implementing one, maybe product, one routine over time that just builds and builds. And then that's when it becomes a sustainable lifestyle and not just a quick fix, lose weight for XYZ. It becomes just a way of life. Like, you wouldn't imagine doing life any differently. And I love that you've been able to cultivate that, like, really intentionally over the last couple of years since you've had your business. And I think that's truly the beauty of being an entrepreneur, is like, at the end of the day, you are creating your routine, your schedule. Like, we can sit and complain about it all we want, but there's no boss telling us to do all these things. So it really is on us. And I know from experience the toxic stress level. And when you bring that down and start to look at, like, how do I actually want to build out my day, my life, my routines, it's so freeing. Like, you have the power to make those changes, and you've done that over the last few years. And I didn't really know you before then, but I can imagine you're showing up as a totally different person for your friends, your family, yourself than you were in that career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't have the bandwidth to be I just was not the best version of myself, at my core. Was I productive? Was I doing all the things, checking all the boxes and making my employers happy? Oh yeah, for sure. But was me personally, as a human and as a mother and as a wife and as a daughter and all those things, was I the best person? No. And that's, when I get caught up in the, oh gosh, what if I would have gone back? They called me, they, would you be interested in it? No. But there's still those what ifs.
It's almost like it's like a little universal, like, check, like, are you good? Like, are you going to keep going on this path, or do you want to go back to, what it was before? It's so funny how those, like, instances kind of pop up to, like, remind us, like, no, you're right. I don't want to go back to that. No. But it's just funny that does happen. It seems to be. Well, in addition to running your business and, taking care of yourself, you're also a mom. And I will be experiencing this season very soon. So I selfishly want to know, how do you balance, and balance might be a bad word here, but, like, just finding contentment amidst the chaos? Because I feel you do a really great job of being intentional for yourself as well as your family and your business. And I'm sure, behind the scenes, it doesn't always feel that way, but I can just see, even from knowing you, that, giving yourself the credit that you deserve, you're doing a lot of things and you're doing them well. So how are you doing that?
Well, thanks, first of all. Most days I feel like a train wreck. I think that's every mother. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how much help you have. No mother, I think it's in our DNA, ever feels good enough. And so I try to remind myself of that. Like, even though you're feeling really bad right now, you're not as bad as what you think. And the fact that you have your family here, they still love you. They're fed, they're healthy, they have a family, a larger unit family. They get to do fun things, all that kind of stuff. Like, I have to remind myself they're fine and they're going to be great humans. I try not to stress too bad. As a new mom, you're going to hear all the advice in the world for the next probably 10 years of your life. It doesn't really stop. and that's okay. You just take what works for you and let the rest go and all of that. And you just have to find out what works best for you, what you and Ben have in terms of a lifestyle and like hobbies that you have and passions that you have and things you want to pursue and all that. You guys have to figure out how to work as a unit together. And it's a team. It is absolutely a team. And my husband and I, because of the crazy lifestyle that we had and still sort of do have, it's a push and a pull. I had to accept and still have to accept on a regular basis that I am in a season of life right now where I am the primary caretaker. I am in that like sort of traditional role of I cook all the meals, I clean the house, I do all the runnings of the errands and all of that stuff because of the way that our lifestyle is. My husband still travels. And then he also has a crazy, like his real estate business is, crazy too. So there's just a lot going on. And I'm like, this is my role right now. And there's days where I want to be in my workshop and I want to be able to focus on nothing but my business. And sometimes I just can't. And it's hard, but those are the conversations that we have to have with ourselves and give ourselves the grace to know that not everything needs to be done within this hypothetical timeline that we think it needs to be. And, really kind of undoing a lot of those messages that I have had ingrained in my brain for the last 30 years. Like, it's okay to go slower. It's okay to only progress when it makes sense with everything else that's going on in your life. And know what your priorities are. What are your absolute non-negotiables? My non-negotiables are I have to work out 5 times a week, not because I need to look a certain way. I have to do it for my mental health and for my physical structure of my body. I have to. And I will not sacrifice that, So non-negotiables for me are also healthy foods. I go to the grocery store and I don't necessarily look at what the grocery bill is because I accept that this is a priority for our family. Do I buy everything organic? No, but am I mindful about what I'm choosing? Yes. And we have agreed as a unit that this is where, these funds go, that kind of thing, So really motherhood and entrepreneurship means for me, I just have to really learn to give and take and understand that there are going to be pushes and pulls in different directions and know that the priority in my life right now is my children. They are very much in an age still where they rely on me for everything. And, they are very busy with sports and all those kinds of things. And so if that means I have to either slow down or hire out, then that's what I need to do, and these are choices that I'm making, it's not easy. It's not easy,
Yeah,
no matter how
I'm
much
sure.
you mentally prepare yourself for what is to come.
You can't.
You just
Yes, I have kind of
don't.
accepted that thing. There's going to be just more that you don't know than what you do know. And honestly, it's kind of the same in business. Like, you can think you have the perfect plan before you set out, and it just goes completely different. So I think taking that mentality of like flexibility, flowing with things, and I've really tried to adopt the saying that nothing is truly an emergency like 99% of the time.
Yes.
Other people love to make it feel like everything is emergency, and we do that because our phones are just like ding ding ding, right? But how many times are things really truly like, if I don't respond in 5 minutes, something bad is going to happen? Like, so far and few. So we have to like almost retrain ourselves and our brain to accept that and just do the best we can, right? At the end of the day, we're all just doing the best we can.
That's right.
So Yes, I appreciate that. But it is helpful to have support systems, especially in these seasons of entrepreneurship, small business ownership, and motherhood. And I know that being a community collaborator and connector is a huge part of who you are. So tell us what you love most about being in community with so many other, primarily female small business owners.
It's so fascinating. When I was in my career, it was such a competitive environment, my corporate career, such a competitive environment. And it just didn't really allow time for real connection with people. I mean, I had a few close friends, colleagues, and stuff like that. But, other than that, my friend group was very small. My community, was very tight knit. And it was okay. I didn't really know what I was missing out on. And then I came into the small business community. And I think the first I met a few small business owners. One, like I sort of knew before I was in small business, and she and I started getting close. And then I met Leslie from Bella Botanicals, who's also a sister. And, she and I have very similar everything. And, it was like, wow, there's other people out here that feel the way I feel and have a passion for what I have a passion for and want to make life better. Like ultimately, I think that's what I get like the biggest goosebumps about is that whenever I'm in a room, with sister circle meetings or any of the like outings that we do, or just when I gather with some of my small business friends or anything like that, the bottom line is we are all out here just trying to make life better. We want a better community. We want a better experience for our families, our friends, all that. Like, that's why we're doing what we're doing. Are we trying to make money too? Yeah, like, of course, obviously. But really, we all have a passion for providing a service or a product that is going to make someone's life just a little bit better. And when you have that common goal, that one common goal, it's amazing what you can do. And the greater impact that you can have when everybody is on board with that message. It's like, of course, I'm going to recommend this person that I know that does that. Of course, I'm going to tell you about an amazing product that my friend makes that I know will help you. Of course, I'm going to partner with someone who is providing an amazing service that's going to help me be a better business owner, like all of those things. And the fact that we have with Sister Circle, that you have created this community of amazing women who are really all about that and about helping one another is just priceless. There are so many brilliant women in that group that like if you have any problem, they will help. Any problem, and I've never had that in my life. I've never had someone where I could be like, hey, what do you think I should do this? And hey, what if I should do that? And, meeting different people for different opinions and all that. I've never had that. And I didn't think I needed it for the longest time. I'm like, I'm Miss Independent and self-sufficient. I don't need that. I have Google, like whatever. But no, humans are where it's at. And so, in my career, I was a coach, a mentor, a trainer. That was my primary, when I was in my end stages of that career, that was my primary goal. And I had to figure out how to connect with people, how to get them what they needed so that they could be the best versions of themselves. I woke up every day with that goal. How can I get this person to be the best version of themselves, And now I can be in a room with people, and because it's other small businesses too, not just women, but and everybody has that same thought. It's just underlying in all of us. How can we all help one another to be the best community, business, person, whatever that we all want to be? It's such a gift. Such a gift.
Yes. I agree wholeheartedly. And it's one of those things where sometimes you have to experience it to really see like, oh, this is what I would been missing. Because even for me, I felt like for the first decade of my business journey, I was fairly isolated. Like I was even in my 20s where like none of my friends were small business owners, really. Even that felt isolating. And then just to be in an industry that was like a little bit more competitive. And so to really set out and say, like, I want to create something that is not that and is something that really truly connects people that are lacking that connection. And many of us are solopreneurs, like we don't have a team yet. So even to just get out and socialize and connect over coffee and bounce ideas like we would off of, let's say, an employee or a team is, like you said, I think just priceless, to have that sort of community to support us. Well, I am excited to ask you the next question because I want to know what is next for you? Like life, business, like what's exciting you about the next kind of season or chapter?
This is, you and I have had this conversation before in little tidbits because, part of what we do at Sister Circle and small business owners in general is, you have to set goals and targets and all those kind of things, right? We're working towards something. And I, in my business, have been so averse to that. It always turned me off. I knew I needed to do it. I knew that I should do it, but I was just like, so I'd throw out some arbitrary number and if I hit it, great, and whatever. And that was kind of it. I was like, I'm just trying to figure this out and just trying to be the best business owner I can be. And yeah, I want to be the best or up there or whatever, but I didn't really know what that was going to look like or anything. When I did the project for school, part of that process was like where you would sell your products, that kind of thing. Like, what do you envision? Do you envision a brick and mortar? Do you, all that kind of stuff? And I have people ask me that all the time. You gonna have a brick and mortar? Like, no. Nope. I don't want to be tied to something like that. I respect wholeheartedly people that are, but that's what I had. I had structure. Even though I wasn't in the same four walls all the time, I had a structure and I had employees that I had to manage and, the challenges that came along with that and all that kind of stuff. So I've kind of like do I want to expand? Because expand means taking on people usually. Or do I just want to maintain, and kind of see where this goes? I still don't really know the answer to that. I do know that I have been working towards specific goals this year, like targets that I'm trying to hit and all that kind of stuff. And it's been working for me, shockingly. So I'm like, okay, maybe there is something to this. Yeah. But, I have a really big quarter coming up and mentally that was kind of weighing on me. I was getting a little bit nervous about that. Fourth quarter is huge, especially for product-based businesses. And the goals that I've set for myself, I was like, I really don't know. I can work hard. I mean, I can bust it out when I have to, but I didn't know if it was going to be possible to be able to do it. So I have opted to take on not one, but two girls they're in high school to help. Yeah. And I don't really know what it looks like yet. One of them is coming in with experience who works with one of my other friends, so she has experience with products, skincare products, all that kind of stuff. So that's going to be helpful that I have somebody who already knows what's up. And then the other one, she's younger. And I don't know if this is going to be her first job, but this will in this realm for sure. So my goal is I want to lighten the load on me. I want to be able to hit the goals that I have set. I want to be able to teach these girls about business and about what it means to be in business and have something that you're passionate about, but not lose yourself. I lost myself a lot of years and I don't wish that upon anyone. It's okay to be passionate about things, but completely losing who you are to it, I don't think is healthy. And so just being able to kind of mentor younger women, even if it's just for a short period of time, that's really kind of what the focus is right now. Like I said, my family life is still quite demanding. My boys do all the sports. My husband still has a crazy schedule. No matter how much I try to tell him to tone it back, so I'm just kind of rolling with it. I would love like big goals, big goals. If you were like, if you could do one thing, what would it be? What would you feel most proud of? Like if my number one selling product, and I'm not going to promote it on here, but if my number one selling product was on the shelves of Whole Foods, like that would be amazeballs. I mean, that was like, I would love that.
I can see it. I can see it. It will happen. I am so excited for you and proud of you for bringing in help, because I know that's been something you have weighed on for a while. And like most of us do, like giving up that sense of control is really hard initially, and then once you do, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier when I don't have to do it all myself. But I also think you're going to love getting back into that role of mentor and coach for the interns or the employees that you're bringing in, because that's a huge part of who you are. And I know for me, that was something I really missed over the last couple of years of transitioning from having a team of 10 to back to solo, and being on a team and not being, the leader. So I have missed that sense of coaching and mentorship, even though I get to do that with clients. It's different, like within your own business, I think. So I'm very excited for you, and I'm so proud of you for doing that. So tell me now, what are you most proud of about yourself?
That's really tough, Steph. I don't know. I think just in life that I have been my own cheerleader, like I don't really rely on other people much, and let me rephrase that. For the mental part of my life, you can do this, the get up and go, I pride myself on being able to do that for myself. And I would say 98% of the time, I'm pretty good at it. I learned early on that if I could be my own biggest fan and cheerleader in my head, that I could push through and survive anything. The worst of circumstances, I could figure it out. Even if I didn't know what I was doing, I could figure it out. And that is something that I am proud of that. I'm resourceful. I don't give up. I figure it out, and then I also somehow still manage to have a lot to give to other people, because I see the need for other people to know. I want to be able to tell people how amazing they are. I don't think enough of us are walking around telling each other how amazing we are. Like being a human is hard, and everything that comes along with it. And I think that we should just be walking down the street high-fiving each other. So I want to be able to keep doing that for myself and not feel like it's hard, like I actually feel good about life on a daily basis. And I want to be able to have other people feel good about their lives and themselves on a daily basis. Anybody that I come in contact with.
Yes, and you have this kind of eternal optimism and energy about you that no matter what is happening, what you're going through, what you are experiencing, like you're always bringing a fresh perspective and a positive perspective, even if you're letting yourself feel the feels, right? But then you get back up and you go for it again. And when we were talking in our last meeting about what is your superpower, I think that is your superpower. You are a cheerleader for yourself and for other people. And you're always bringing your best self to the table, to, whatever situation arises. And you also weren't you biggest supporter for Sister Circle? Like, I think that's what you won, was like the connector, the cheerleader, like, and you do that so naturally. So I 100% agree and am proud of you as well. My final question is, what drives your soul today? What do you get up for each morning?
So, I mean, cliche, obviously, but family, of course, they're my everything. It's, but I really, if you ask me what I love most about life, is that every single day and every single second has the potential of being the best version at any given moment. And that we all have a choice in every single second. It really is so like basic. And I have bad days, I have bad moments, I have things I'm not proud of, ways I behave, things like that. But the fact that I know that there is always the tomorrow or the next moment where I can choose to be better, it just fuels me to keep going. That I'm not competing with anybody else. I'm competing with myself. I want to be, I'm constantly trying to develop myself. I'm like you, I'm always reading, personal development books and stuff like that. And, because I just want to be a good human, and live up to potential. And I don't really know what that potential is, but I'm here to try and figure that out. And we got one chance. I was just having a conversation with a buddy yesterday. I'm like, you have one life. So many of us are walking around, thinking, well, I'll do that later. Or, oh, it's not a big deal that this is happening. It's fine. Whatever it is. And it's like, no, one life. And it goes so quickly. And I want to end up at the end of my life happy, grateful, content, for everything that came my way, good and bad, and yeah, just like, don't wait. Do all the things that are going to make you feel good. Yeah, we still got to be adults and have responsibilities and whatnot, but we have choices within that. And, I spent too many years pushing that part of me down, and I'm just not willing to do that anymore. So I live every day to not have to go back to that version,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a choice. Like you're saying, we have a choice every second of every day to decide how we're going to live it out, how we're going to show up, and what we want to do with it. Yeah. This has been such a soul inspiring conversation. I cannot wait for listeners to hear this episode. And if they are not following you already, tell us where to find your information, buy your products, and just follow your own journey.
Sure. So I primarily hang out on Instagram. I just find it's an easier platform. So at Instagram, my handle is simple.in.nature. And then you can also find me at Facebook, which is just at Simple in Nature, no dots there. My website, if you want to check out any of the products, read all about, any of the descriptions of the products, learn about the scents, anything like that, is simpleinnature.com. And if you just want to talk to me about anything, like I said, I love chatting about all things health and wellness, toxin-free lifestyle, ways to be your best self. You want to talk about that? I'm here for it. You can always send me a DM on Instagram.
Awesome. And I will also link my code in the show notes, so you can get a little discount there. If you haven't bought any products yet, you must try the body oil and the sugar scrub, and just try it all. It'll change your life. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. Until next time, keep following what drives your soul. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Soul Driven with Steph. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it out with someone else who needs to hear this message. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so that you know when new episodes drop. And until next time, be sure to take care of your mind, your body, and your soul.